And then he wrote, and the king ripped that all up. And anyway, Jeremiah's message was one addressed to people who were pretty disobedient, and he said destruction's going to follow. The city was under siege, the soldiers were demoralized. People of power said, King, you got to get rid of this prophet. So he was thrown into a dungeon, and then he got out, and here we pick it up.
A reading from the book of the prophet Jeremiah. In those days, the princes said to the king, Jeremiah ought to be put to death. He is demoralizing the soldiers who are left in this city and all the people by speaking such things to them. He is not interested in the welfare of our people, but in their ruin. King Zedekiah answered, He is in your power, for the king could do nothing with them. And so they took Jeremiah and threw him into the cistern of Prince Malchiah, which was in the quarters of the guard, letting him down with ropes. There was no water in the cistern, only mud, and Jeremiah sank into the mud. Ebed-Melech, a court official, went there from the palace and said to him, My lord king, these men have been at fault in all they have done to the prophet Jeremiah, casting him into the cistern. He will die of famine on the spot, for there is no more food in the city. Then the king ordered Ebed-Melech the Cushite to take 3 men along with him and draw the prophet Jeremiah out of the cistern before he should die. The word of the Lord.
Lord, Lord, come to my aid. 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 I have waited for the Lord, and he stooped toward me. Lord, Lord, come to my aid. Lord, Lord, come to my aid. The Lord heard my cry, he drew me out of the pit of destruction, out of the mud of the swamp. He set my feet upon a crag, he made firm my steps. Lord, Lord, come to my aid. Lord, Lord, come to my aid. And he put a new song into my mouth, a hymn to our God. Many shall look on in awe and trust in the Lord. Lord, Lord, come to my aid. Lord, Lord, come to my aid. Though I am afflicted and poor, yet the Lord thinks
A reading from the letter to the Hebrews. Brothers and sisters, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us rid ourselves of every burden and sin that clings to us, and persevere in running the race that lies before us while keeping our eyes fixed on Jesus, the leader and perfecter of faith. For the sake of the joy that lay before him, he endured the cross, despising its shame, and has taken his seat at the right of the throne of God. Consider how he endured such opposition from sinners in order that you might not grow weary and lose heart. In your struggle against sin, you have not yet resisted to the point of shedding blood. The word of the Lord.
The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Jesus said to his disciples, to us, I have come to set the earth on fire, and how I wish it were already blazing. There is a baptism with which I must be baptized, and how great is my anguish until it is accomplished. Do you think that I have come to establish peace on the earth? No, I tell you, but rather division. From now on, a household of 5 will be divided, 3 against 2 and 2 against 3. A father will be divided against his son and a son against his father, a mother against her daughter and a daughter against her mother, a mother-in-law against her daughter-in-law and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
So wasn't that an exciting gospel reading today? Wow. But before I get to the gospel, all week I have been stuck with Jeremiah in the mud and muck of a cistern. I don't know if Ben and Grace even know what a cistern is, but if you can imagine a big hollowed out piece in rock and the bottom it's all mud. It caused me to think about summertime, which is we're in, and my neighbors had a cottage out at Pike Lake, and we would go out there to swim a lot. What I remembered about a Pike Lake is you just sunk into the muck. So I just wanted to keep my feet moving a lot. And then along the way in high school, a friend invited me up to their property in Kangaroo Lake near Egg Harbor, and their property had just sand. I don't know if anyone else in the lake did, but their property just had sand, and that was a fun lake to be in rather than sinking into the muck of Pike Lake. But anyway, these leaders wanted to get rid of Jeremiah because they didn't like what he was saying because they were calling him to task. Jeremiah spoke on behalf of God, and because they were disobedient, he was saying, you're going to be destroyed. Eventually they were. And they said he should be killed, but they didn't have the courage to do it. They threw him into a cistern where there was no food, no water, and he was certainly going to die. What a cowardly, terrible thing to do. And then I began to wonder if I, or we, or nations or countries, who's thrown into the muck of cisterns today? Well, surely they will die. What a terrible image. To think people are just in mud, can't get out, no help. But it's interesting to me that Ebed-Melech, a foreigner, somehow he and Jeremiah got connected and they knew each other because he went to the king and said, hey, can I get my friend out of that cistern? The psalm we sang, Lord, Lord, come to my aid. Isn't it interesting that a foreigner came to Jeremiah's aid? What would have happened if they would have not had the chance to meet? So was it Jeremiah who made the overture, or was it Ebed-Melech? His name, Ebed-Melech, means servant of the king. And we believe we have a king. We call him Jesus Christ, and I wonder aren't you and I supposed to be servants of the king? Would that mean that you and I are the ones who should be advocating to bring people out of the mud of the cisterns where people are left to die? So one of the things that Jesus is doing in the Gospel of Luke is he's teaching them about what does it mean to be a disciple or a follower of me. The music today is going to tell us over and over what it is that it means to be a follower of Christ. A disciple is obviously someone who realizes we do need help. We do need assistance if we're going to choose to follow Christ. And we're going to realize that part of that help means you and I are a part of a community. That's how God comes to our assistance in many, many different ways. So what do you think? Do you think Jesus came to bring peace on the earth? Well, what did the angels say? Peace on earth, goodwill to man. So it sounds like he came to bring peace. And when he rode into Jerusalem, did he have a big chariot with 4 horses or 8 horses? No, he had a little donkey, an animal of peace. And when it came time for him to be taken in the garden and his friends began to draw swords, what did he say? Violence will not be the way. And so Jesus certainly did come to bring peace in the world. However, his message caused people to choose. And that brought division then and probably today. And in fact, he was saying, if you want to follow me, I'm going to be more important than blood, the family you're born into, or marriage, the family you marry into. I'm going to be more important to them. And if following my ways means that, then that's what it will bring. His message was not a go along and get along. His message was, I want you to be those who bring mercy into the world. I want you those who bring forgiveness in the world. I want you those who advocate on those who are stuck in the muck of life and they're dying and they're forgotten and they're abandoned. I want you to reach out for them. So if you want to be one of my disciples, know that it might cause division. It may Acknowledge you're not a part of the power group or the in-group. He said, I have come to light a fire on the earth. Fire, it's not lit tonight, but the fire, just think about fires, what fire does. We light candles here. Fire is sometimes used in campfires, can be used at special times like special meals or a prayer candle. So fire has all kinds of things that it can do, but have you ever noticed? Fire can soften that which is hard. Have you ever noticed that fire can purify that which is dirty? That which is cold becomes hot because of the fire, and that which is hidden becomes seen. In a sense, the fire transforms what it is with. And so, we are to be that fire. We are to be that fire that transforms the part of the world that you and I live in. And we know we don't do this alone. We come here to be reminded that God has come to the help of some pretty important and ordinary people, and we tell stories about it like Jeremiah today. That God, when Jesus embraced his baptism, his dying and rising, which he didn't really want to go through all that pain and suffering, but he did anyway, that set him on fire, if you will. And he then gave us the Spirit, the fire that came upon all the people at Pentecost and us, so that you and I would bring his fire, his way of forgiveness and mercy and reconciliation and compassion, all the things we're going to sing about before we leave here today. So, if you're sinking in the muck of life tonight, I hope Ebed-Melech of your life comes to take you out. Or that you and I might be the Ebed-Melech who will pull out of the cisterns of life in which people have left to die, that we will be the ones who bring the light to them. Following Jesus is a pretty big choice. The song we sing, I Will Choose Christ, it's probably an automatic thing, but I guess if we're doing it, we're going to upset some people. And they may not like us, and they may no longer talk to us, and they may want to do bad things to us. So, following Christ, it's a choice. We make it over and over again. The good news is that we have been given his light. The good news is that he promises, as he's done in the past, to come to our assistance, to do it now and in the future. And we do know that we need to be part of a community to be bold enough to be a follower of Christ. Let us stand and profess our faith.